Hey, what are you doing? Huh? Oh, I'm just laying down a groove on the bass. But you're playing it wrong. Bass players use their fingers, not a pick. What do you mean? There's no right way to play the bass. There is. Real bass players use their fingers. Only wannabes use a pick. Oh, well, lots of bass players play with a pick. That's the question, isn't it? Are you going to play the bass with your fingers or with a pick? It's a debate that's gone on for a long time. Now, personally, I'm a finger player. I always have been, and I've never really been interested in using a pick to play the bass. But maybe I'm wrong. So I wanted to take a minute to look at this and figure out what's the right way to play the bass. Let's get into it. The bass guitar was initially created in the 1930s by Seattle musician Paul Tutmark and later mass produced in the 1950s by Leo Fender. Prior to that, popular music was held down by the double bass. Now, believe me, this is a big instrument that's a little difficult to transport sometimes. It's prone to feedback when you amplify it too loud, and it can be played out of tune if you are competing against loud guitars and drums. The bass guitar alleviated all of those issues and was soon adopted by touring musicians. So right away, there were some early adopters. Folks like Monk Montgomery and Roy Johnson were both jazz musicians who were transferring to the bass guitar from the double bass. When you play upright bass, you're using a finger technique in your right hand. Now, you're generally using the side of your fingers right here, and you're often really plucking with that one first finger. Moving to the bass guitar, you can still play with your fingers. You can even get a little bit of that side of that first finger. Although most players have moved to using the tips of their fingers and alternating between the first and second. Double bassists are a small group of musicians, and Leo Fender needed to sell a lot of bass guitars, so they marketed to guitar players as well. So there was another group of earlier adopters, folks like session musicians Carol Kaye and Joe Osborne, Sir Paul McCartney with the Beatles. These were all guitar players who made the leap to bass guitar. When you're playing guitar, especially in a pop and rock context, you're generally using a pick. You can play with downstrokes. You can alternate up and down strokes. You can strum. Those are all sounds really common on the guitar, instigated by a pick. Using that pick translates directly to the bass guitar, and you can do all of those same motions that you would on a standard guitar and play bass lines. Since both of these options were validated by early adopters, distinct lineages of bassists who played with their fingers and bassists who played with a pick developed. Some of the most influential bassists in music have played with their fingers. Folks like bass legend Jaco Pastorius, studio legends James Jamerson and Duck Dunn, Geddy Lee from Rush, Billy Sheehan, jazz fusion icon John Patitucci. An equally impressive list of bassists have developed their music playing with a pick. Take Chris Squire from Yes, Roger Glover from Deep Purple, Gene Simmons from Kiss, and Jason Newsted from Metallica. This may seem like a long list of rock musicians, so right away you may be thinking, well, only rock musicians play the bass with a pick. But that's not true. Take funk master Bobby Vega, who does some really funky lines with a pick, or jazz icon Steve Swallow, who plays all those walking lines on electric bass using a pick. So why would a bassist choose fingers versus picks? It's a great question. And it may all come back down to their background, like I discussed earlier in the video. But there's another important distinction to take into consideration. They sound and feel different. Now, I'm going to play the same bass line, but I'm going to play it twice, once with my fingers and once with a pick. Now, when I play with the fingers, I really like the feel of it. It feels like there's nothing between me and the instrument. We're just connected, making the music. It's a little bit more of a full body experience. The tone is a little bit rounder, maybe sometimes a little less distinct. And honestly, this might just be me, but personally, I feel like I've got a little bit more control over where I place the notes in the beat. I feel like I could pull back a little bit if I wanted to. I could push forward, or I could play it right down the middle. Now, when I'm using the pick, it feels like I'm playing a little bit more aggressively, kind of like I'm attacking the instrument a little bit more. It's definitely brighter and really more distinct. Those notes really cut through a lot more. And well, this doesn't relate completely to the line I was just playing. I feel like if I needed to play really fast and shred a little bit, it'd be a little bit easier with the pick. So what's the right way to play the bass? Using your fingers or using a pick? Of course, there's really no right answer to that question because you've got to find what works for you. You can make beautiful music using your fingers or using a pick. You might have style considerations that influence your choice, or you may be coming from a different instrument that influences whether you use your fingers or a pick. Or you may just like the sound of one versus the other. There are so many choices that develop our artistic development. There's no one right way to do things. You've just got to make some choices, pick up that bass, and start making some music. But in my opinion, the bassists getting it right are a whole nother group that we haven't discussed yet. There are a lot of bassists, especially in our modern day and age, that switch between using fingers and a pick depending on the demands of the music. Anthony Jackson became a legend in the jazz fusion world, using a variety of techniques that involve his fingers to make some really great music. But he became equally well known for using a pick and a phase shifter to lay down one of the funkiest lines ever on For the Love of Money by the OJs. John Paul Jones played most of the music with Led Zeppelin with his fingers, but when he needed to, he grabbed that pick, most notably on Black Dog. John Entwistle with The Who had incredible right-hand technique with his fingers, but if he needed it, he grabbed a pick You can hear him do that on My Generation. I think Sting summed it up nicely when he said, "I play bass with my fingers and a pick." I often used a pick in The Police. A pick was good because we were only a trio, and I needed the bass lines to be very clear rather than rumbling and vague, so playing with a pick low down near the bridge helped the band. Now that's a good choice. At the top of the video, I mentioned I'm a finger player, and that's true. But after going through all of this, I realized that I want to be one of those bassists that can switch back and forth between using their fingers and using a pick depending on the situation. Now, this means I need to get my pick chops together, so I need your help. Down in the comments, tell me all of your favorite bass players that use a pick. Any essential songs that I should learn where the bass was played with the pick, or any just technical advice you have for me. Put it down in the comments so I can start on this journey. And of course, if you got any thoughts on fingers versus a pick, let me know down in the comments. Let's keep this discussion going. I would love to hear all of your thoughts. If you're enjoying the videos, press like, give me a thumbs up right there. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you hear about all the upcoming videos, and keep it on the lowdown. I'll be seeing you soon.